Hey there, folks. It's the U-Man here. Yep. I haven't frozen to death yet. Yeah, it's been really cold. But lately it's been getting a little bit warmer, but it's still cold, of course. It was close to 30 degrees, I think, today in the sun or something. Yeah. Kind of warming up a little bit the next few days, but then I heard on the weekend it's supposed to be cooling off again. I think this weekend we're supposed to get some more snow, maybe another 2 inches or something. And then I think the next week after that, it's going to start getting cold here again. We're going to start getting like really cold temperatures during the day again. I don't mind the snow. I just hate the freezing cold. Yeah, we've had a couple day, 2 days here where it's been warm enough for things to start to melt a little bit, but not by much. Yeah, there's still a lot of snow out there. So luckily, I was able to get my driveways pretty much. The driveway here is paved, so I was able to get that pretty much cleaned off. So yeah, hopefully, I won't have any issues with my driveway having ice on it or anything. But anyway, yeah, more lighter topic. I know you guys have seen. I did a lot of videos talk about SWAT Kats and SWAT Kats Revolution. I guess I heard that that series is being worked on. I think the biggest part of it is I think it was just they've been having trouble with getting enough money. I think to get it together supposedly or something. Well, I mean I guess some of these things would be very expensive to do. I guess and yeah. I think Kickstarter was successful, but it's like these things. Sometimes it's just extra cost you didn't quite realize. But yeah. Anyway, but yeah. Well, I have the full collection of the Swat Cats through the Hanna Barbera Classic Collection. Yeah, supposedly, Warner Bros. Website used to be able to get this, but of course, Warner Brothers is now up in the air, being bought by. Yes, because I don't know if a lot of you realize it, but Hanna Barbera kind of went bankrupt. Warner Brothers kind of took control of it. Yeah, more IPs that Warner Brothers doesn't do anything with, but, or Hanna Barbera or whatever. Well, the cool is the new show is going to be done by the original creators, so that's good. But yeah, or SWAT Cats as I remember it. When I first saw SWAT Cats, yeah, because for a while I did not have cable. When I was growing up, I didn't have cable, so I saw SWAT Cats probably kind of after they had already been on the air, or back in the '90s. They're like really cutting edge cartoon, really cool. I remember seeing it on let's see, what was it? Yeah, on Cartoon Network. Wasn't it? I think it was called Afternoon Adventures or something. Oh wait, no, that was that was the Disney Channel. But anyway, it was some kind of weird block of animation that that Cartoon Network had. I think it was Captain Planet, Swamp Cats, and something else. I remember, but yeah, yeah, it was a time where eventually we got yeah, I remember my family had gotten Prime Star. You guys remember Prime Star? Way back when it was like one of the first. I think it was close to one of the first mini satellite TV things, though. And then once it was a mini satellite, you could get pick up satellite television with a smaller dish. So you didn't need a dish the size of this freaking house to freaking have. Because I knew someone who had satellite TV, but they had a huge giant satellite dish. And then we Prime Star was like the small dish. Yeah, I remember that was so cool. It opened a big floodgate for me of cartoons. Back when Cartoon Network actually showed cartoons. Yeah. Then later, SWAT Cats went on to Boomerang, and I think you can still pick it up there once in a while. But yeah, Cartoon Network has kind of faded away. I think. Well, some has been. But yeah, I remember seeing original SWAT Cats on Cartoon Network, so I never saw it when it was actually aired. I really loved the show, big action show. Like, yeah, I know you guys have seen like the movie Howard the Duck. The whole Howard the Duck, where he's in a universe where they're all ducks and everything. But in this with SWAT Cats, everyone's a cat. So there's like in a world with cats, and there's always these references to different things from our world that are like different in their world. Like instead of David Letterman, they have David Litterbin and other weird references. Instead of drinking beer, they drink milk. And instead of and drugs are like catnip or whatever. So yeah, it's funny. The biggest thing is, of course, we have T-Bone and Razor. They're like mechanics by day. They're mechanics most of the time. They were once members of the fighting force of the Enforcers, which is kind of like a military kind of police kind of force run by Commander Farrell, and they get as they pursued eventually one of their villains. In their Enforcer days, they had to chase after Dark Cat, and then of course they had a whole issue, and they ended up crashing their plane into the new Enforcer building. So then. So Jake and Chance, like T-Bone Razor, they had to pay it back. So then they were kind of in forced labor to go to the junkyard and hopefully and try to repay back their debt, how much they owe on the building. Of course, while there, I think the enforcers threw out a lot of stuff. They were able to build their own plane, the Turbo Cat, and then create all of their own the Glovatrix, the special missiles, concrete guns. It is like very, very cool. Well, it was cool the idea that they built all of their own stuff. Yeah, they were kind of like Batman and stuff, but they weren't rich. They were just regular dudes, which is always kind of the cool thing about it. The heroes, of course, some of them have flaws. A lot of the T-Bone and Razor aren't perfect. They have their flaws, their issues, but together they both kind of like work together and able to do it. Of course, no one really knows who they are, so they do have a secret identity. Yeah, no one really knows that they're doing that. I would think in the new show, maybe it'd be cool if that Callie Miss Briggs, she's like the deputy mayor of Mega Cat City, and where this takes place in. Yeah, I wonder if there would be a thing in the new series where she knows who they are or something. I never understood why. Well, the series kind of ended when it was just getting good. Because I remember Commander Farrell's niece was getting involved, and she was probably going to be. I think people had thought maybe she was going to be a major character in it. That there was going to be a lot of other things. Like maybe eventually they were going to tell Miss Briggs that they are the SWAT Kats, perhaps. Because it always seems odd. Nowadays a lot of times they have the woman knows who they are. Like they had like Mary Jane knows who Spider-Man is and stuff. Like, yeah, there's like a whole big thing that could be going on there. But yeah, I always liked the episodes. I mean, I think every episode I like. Like each episode doesn't feel fast paced, and the villains are always really cool. Yeah, I should talk about the villains. We have the Metallic Cats, which are what is it, Mac and Molly Mange. They're like two like they're kind of like Bonnie and Clyde characters. They're kind of like gangsters and stuff. Supposedly they get injured, and then there's a scientist dude who gives them robot bodies. Of course, they're evil. The scientist doesn't quite realize that, and now they're like invincible. Then they come back for revenge on the mayor and everything because they were sent to uh, the Alcatraz Island. Yeah, they were escaping from there in a little rowboat, and they got hit by a boat and drowned, and then they were found, and then they were given robot bodies. But the issue is, it's with them, and then they're called the Metallic Cats. They're robots, are powerful, they're nearly invincible. But the issue is, Mac and Molly, they argue all the time. They're technically married. They don't get along, and that's always the biggest issue with them is that they're robots, super powerful, but they're so held back by their gangster personalities. I like how Molly's kind of threatening him, like, oh, I can still clean your clock, tough guy, or stuff like that. So it's funny. It's cool. Yeah, then mostly they want to rob banks and stuff. And we have Dark Cat. He was like one of the first villains. Yeah, he's like a major villain continuously. Like he's always kind of, yeah. He's like some kind of mysterious kind of villain. They didn't really fully explain his origins really at all. But as I said, the show was short, so maybe there was a lot of things they wanted to do, but they weren't able to do, or they were pushed to do. Like I remember, like they changed around the order of the episodes because originally, the second episode was the one with a dinosaur. Well, oh yeah, sorry. We have the Past Master. He's a medieval sorcerer from the medieval times. He's undead, of course, Mrs. Megacat City. He can manipulate time, make time portals, bring things back. He's a kind of recurring villain. He's tried to do a few things. Yeah, I remember that Swat Kats went back into the medieval times to help him fight and stuff. Yeah, he's the Past Master. He's multiple. There've been multiple episodes, I think. Let's see, the Past Master. Oh yes, Doctor Viper. Now, Doctor Viper, we had a full idea of his origins. That him and Doctor Zymes were creating some kind of enzyme that could help. Yeah, that would help cat kind. Of course, Purvis, who would later become Doctor Viper. He wanted to use the formula for money. He accidentally trips down the stairs and spills it on him, and he's supposedly dead. But then he horribly mutates. So he's like part lizard, part cat, man, and he has this hiss noise. And I believe he's voiced by Frank Welker. He's one of the major villains that, well, I think we see Metallic Cat's origins and Dr. Viper's origins. I don't think there's really origins of other ones. There are some episodes where there's like a one-time villain. Yeah, I think one time there was one where the guy turns into a big crystal dude, and then they have to fight him, and he can reflect the sunlight and hit them with it. And it's like, yeah. Then we had one episode we had like evil space bugs, evil space bugs and stuff. There were a lot of certain enemies. I know I'm forgetting about some other enemy. Oh yes. Oh, and then of course there's Hard Drive. He's a interesting cat dude because this electronic coat, this special coat he has on. He can turn into an electrical current and like pass through stuff and take over things. Yeah, yeah, hard drive. It was basically kind of cool. He can like go into computers, steal information, and then leave because he has a special suit. Yeah, he's kind of like Electro from Spider-Man or something. I thought he was kind of a cool villain. I heard he's actually one of the, well, him and Dark Cat are both two of the major villains against the Swat Kats in the comic book, I believe. Ah. Well, then we had like this undead ghost pilot that comes back, and then Mayor Manx, he's like a descendant of the man who killed him, so he has to fire a missile at him and blow him up. The biggest thing is I love the cyclotron, like their little motorcycle thing that they have. It's just, that's really cool. Yeah, it really is it really was a cool show. There was a Super NES video game. So I wish we'd have next gen SWAT Kats game. I really wish that we did. That would be really cool. But yeah, in the original style. Let's see. No, I don't think I'm missing anybody. Any of the main villains that we constantly see. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Yeah, it was quite yeah, a very interesting show. A lot of people blame Ted Turner for it being canceled, but I think Hanna-Barbera's animation style back then was very expensive. So Hanna-Barbera just went bankrupt. Yeah, Pirates of Dark Water, SWAT Kats, that pretty much, I think, made them go bankrupt because they used a very expensive animation style. Now, I noticed that when I watched the ones on Cartoon Network that they were of high quality. I noticed that when I went back to watch these ones on, unless it's Blu-ray, that's not going to be in HD. Yeah, these are not in HD quality. They're still in SD quality. So they don't really doesn't look as good when the official release of the DVDs. I guess that's because these were originally probably taken right off the VHS and they didn't really enhance them to put them on DVDs. Kind of cheap DVDs. Now I have a pirated disc. Well, not really pirated, but I mean it was somebody on yeah, because I remember we were doing torrent downloads and discovered a torrent like a couple years ago. Yeah, it was a little bit of a little bit of a while ago. Yeah, somebody named Moonzong or whatever. Like he had recorded episodes right off of Boomerang, or I think it was right off of Boomerang, I think, or Cartoon Network. I think he was able to take this off there. I discovered that when they put the SWAT Cats on television, on Cartoon Network, that they somehow they must have enhanced the image a little bit. Yeah, because they get really great quality over what it was. Yeah, the high quality version of the video. Because I guess that's what it was when they had to digitize it to put it on, to put it on cable. Yeah, just a great show. I mean, they had all kinds of different things, like time travel episodes. They had alien invaders, where the main guy was Michael Dorn, I believe. The voice, yeah, I mean, attacking aliens. There was a future thing where they went to the future and the metallic hats had taken over and there were robots everywhere. So, like multiple different things. And then, not only that, we also saw an alternate reality where there were evil SWAT cats. Yeah, it's the cat verse. Yeah, they kind of had a kind of a multiverse kind of idea there. Like the SWAT Cats and Dark Cat were evil and they were all working together. Oh yeah, Miss Briggs was evil in that place. I thought that was cool. Not many shows that get to that point are usually pretty good. Yeah, I remember the evil space bugs. I thought that was cool. They would bite the enforcers and turn them into bugs. Yeah, the people got killed in this show. Like people would get eaten by a giant. Oh yeah, the giant bacteria. That was able to eat people, eat cows. Yeah, I mean this was a rather violent cartoon. I mean people got killed. Like you watch the show, you're like, I didn't see any parachutes. Those guys are dead. So I was like, yeah, it was pretty intense. When Commander Farrell gets shot down his helicopter, he's like, I need to chop her back up. It's like, it's funny. Yeah, some of the voices are kind of cool. Like, I know some of the voices are seemed familiar to me. Yeah, like, there's a guy that did, yeah, the voice on Scooby-Doo, some of the voice actors. As I said, Frank Welker I believe he does Dr. Viper. Not really particularly sure. Yeah, it was a great show. I mean, I've seen a lot of YouTube things where there's like long lost episodes that they had been. People have discovered the old plot line for some old episodes. So that was cool. Maybe it'd be a fan project to bring that back. But anyway, yeah. The SWAT Cats is definitely one of the animated shows I love a lot. Yeah. If you want to watch SWAT Cats, I believe you can get SWAT Cats on iTunes, I believe. On iTunes? What was the other place I said? Is it Hulu or whatnot? Oh, yes. Prime Video. Prime Video is usually the best place to watch a lot of these old cartoons. I think they have the episodes of Pirates of Darkwater on there. They have episodes of SWAT Cats. So you can get the SWAT Cats digitally. I'm not sure if you can get them in HD or not. It might still be SD, but yeah, I think so because of the source that they were on or whatnot. I don't know this yet because I think Warner Brothers, I guess, doesn't. Well, supposedly the original creators now have the rights to SWAT Cats. So I'd heard that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that was also another issue they were having. Yeah, because Warner Brothers, like, I don't know. Warner Brothers is not doing anything with SWAT Cats, so why do they care? So the original creators finally got access to their IP. So that was what I think that was the biggest hurdle they had to get over. And well, now that Warner Brothers is supposedly being bought by Netflix, it's great to see that this IP is going somewhere else, and it's under the helm of the original people. So here's hoping it's going to be good because so many things have been. Well, I mean, the Ninja Turtles. Isn't how many renditions? How many different renditions of the of them of the Ninja Turtles, and then of Transformers. It's like a lot of cool animated shows. It's like yeah, I don't think we're ever gonna get like a live action SWAT Cats because I just don't think it would make any sense. Maybe they could do a crossover thing where we see like the human versions of the SWAT Cats. Well, they wouldn't be called SWAT Cats, would they be? Yeah. But it was always a cool action show. Timo and Razor, they have a chemistry as buddies that's just kind of fits. Well, Razor's kind of a smaller cat dude, and Tebow is a big muscular dude. So yeah, they're both buddies. Sometimes it reminds me of Scooby Doo because they have like they eat the really hot chilies. They don't like freak out like Scooby and Shaggy do, but it's like yeah. And then they had the Freaky Cat like cartoon, and I'm like it's funny. Yeah, I do notice that Razor's voice, the guy that does Razor's voice, is the guy that did Donatello's voice. So there's a lot of voice actors you'll probably notice when you watch it. Yeah, it's a really cool show. Yeah, if any of you guys want to check it out, I definitely suggest you want to check it out if you want to watch all the cartoons. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, actually, this month I'm going to be turning, what? Yes, I'm going to be turning 44. So yeah, it seems weird for me to be liking to watch cartoons, but yeah, I'm a dork, but whatever. I'm gonna watch some of these shows, the really good ones. You know, I tried watching Transformers again, and it was like kind of jarring a little bit. But usually the first seasons are. But I mean, SWAT Cats. I felt like SWAT Cats was good all the way through. I liked some of the episodes. Oh yes, there was one episode I really particularly liked. SWAT Cats Unplugged. Like hard drive had been able to deactivate all their weapons. So yeah, I remember they had to like hang out the bomb bay door and dump out paint on his windshield so he'd crash. So it was like so it showed the SWAT cats defeating a villain without their gadgets. They were able to defeat him anyway, which was kind of a cool thing. Because a lot of times we think of like, oh, the Power Rangers, they just summon giant robots or something. But so the SWAT cats can they're versatile. They can think on their paws, I guess, and get that done. Yeah. So I'm definitely hoping the new show. I've seen a lot of the animation in the new show. I don't know if I really like the style that they look, but yeah, whatever. It'll probably be cool. Yeah, I heard some plot lines about it. Yeah, why do I explain some of the plot lines that I've heard about the show? Well, there was a rumor that there was like a female she cat like discovers the junkyard and discovers and she figures out and she discovers who the SWAT cats really are, and she ends up but she's going there because she heard about everything that they did. Supposedly, like the enforcers and stuff, they've upgraded their technology. Yeah, like yeah, yeah. Tubu and Razor were gonna like yeah, Chance and the other dude. They were going to like they were ready to. They had pretty much retired from being the SWAT cats because they weren't needed anymore. The enforcers finally got good. They had advanced technology. Jake and Chance. Yeah, if I remember them, Jake and Chance. They, you know. So basically, she comes into the picture. She helps them. She convinces them to get back into the going, and she has to upgrade all of their technology for them and stuff. So I guess she would become like she would be like their Maybe they're talking to her because she's at their base, relaying information. Maybe she's like their tech person, or kind of an oracle. Like we're like Batgirl or something. She kind of like is in their ear telling them certain things, or maybe she talks to them and helps them defeat the villains or whatever. Yeah, I haven't seen any what the villains are going to look like, but assuming they're going to be cool. I had always thought like, what would be the funny thing if we find out that this she cat girl that discovered them is actually like she's related to Hard Drive or something. That would be kind of weird. I I don't think she is, but somebody thought that would be bad, but no, I thought it would be good. How a young person that decides like, oh, I want to find where the SWAT cats are and stuff. So then they're like going back and they have all new upgraded suits and all upgraded technology and stuff. That looked pretty cool. I'm not sure like if they're how far in the future they are a little bit. Yeah, because the Turbo Cat looks rather weird. The Turbo Cat looked a little weird. It looks more like a flying car than it did a plane. But whatever. I really love Swat Kats. There was just something about the show that was just good, and it just hit appropriately. There wasn't some big giant mission to save the world. They were all just trying to save the city. Much like any kind of heroes that we save. Well, they didn't have superpowers. They just had advanced technology, and yeah, T-Bone was he's the pilot. He's the flyer. Razor's the one that does all their gadgets and whatnot. Yeah, it was always kind of cool, like how they like work together and stuff, and how they kind of like hard on each other once in a while. Yeah, just a really cool show. Yeah, as I said a little bit ago, yeah, definitely a good show. If you like some of these old cartoons and these cool action cartoons that were maybe a little too intense, maybe at one time, but had a new life on Cartoon Network. Yeah, it's just, alas, Cartoon Network is not what it once was. Well, I don't think any networks are really what they used to be. Like I go on Sci-Fi, there's just movies all the time. Like, what happened? Where are all the original shows they used to have on? I remember watching like Stargate Atlantis, all those Stargate things. Because I'd stay up late to watch them. Yeah, and I had to go to work the next day, so that was always interesting. Yeah, a lot of networks they show movies all the time, or they're just showing one show. I remember when Cartoon Network started showing Scooby Doo like all the time. I'm like, what happened? Where's everything else? Well, then they moved everything over to Boomerang, which then became something you had to pay extra for, even if you had yeah, even if you had Prime Star or satellite TV, you still had to pay extra for it or whatever. Yeah, maybe I should do a whole video about me, Cartoon Network as I remember it or something. Well, of course, when I was growing up, usually I could watch cable TV, but I would go visit my grandparents that lived. They lived in Massachusetts, so it was like like a 4 hour drive. We would go visit them, and usually we'd spend the weekend there. I think I used to spend almost every weekend there when I was younger. Yeah, I mean, my grandparents were a little bit boring, so a lot of times we ended up, I remember just laying on the couch while we would be watching cable TV that I just wouldn't be able to get to watch at home. Yeah, I think I remember my grandmother being unhappy that I had, like, because I kept changing the channels all the time. It was driving her nuts. Yeah, I remember my grandmother had from hearing it such we had to turn the TV so loud I couldn't even be in the room. So my grandmother always had bad hearing. Yeah, unfortunately, my grandmother. Yeah, unfortunately, my grandparents are now all gone. So yeah, I think my grandfather, 2006. My grandmother, rather recently. But, yeah, yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. I just have some interesting memories. They weren't like the best grandparents, but I had some interesting memories of them. But, but anyway, yeah, it was always cool to go to their house and be able to watch things that I couldn't watch. And I remember when Cartoon Network first started and all this cool yeah, they had a lot of Hanna Barbera cartoons. I mean, there were a lot of the old cartoons that I hadn't seen for a while were now on Cartoon Network, and they always had these different blocks of animation and Toonami. Yeah, and Toonami and a lot of stuff like Robotech and everything that I got caught up with. But on the yeah, sorry, didn't mean to ramble. I get rambling. Should, as I said, I should do a full video of it. But yeah, yeah, SWAT Kats, great, a great thing. I sponsored money to the Kickstarter, so I supposedly here in March, I think I'm going to get the digital version of the comic book, and I'll probably be reviewing that on here. Probably. I'll check out permissions and stuff. I don't want to. I don't want to spoil the thing, so maybe I would just talk about it, not show any pictures of it or anything. But yeah, I guess I'm regretting not getting it on because I think there was different Kickstarter goals. But yeah, the comic book is going to happen. That's what I've heard. I think there's also well, I think it was just not going to be. I think it was going to be it was a kind of virtual comic book. I think we're also going to have people talking on it. I think where was that? There was a special version of it, I guess, and some of the original cast members were going to do that, their actor voices and stuff. But yeah, yeah, SWAT Kats, one of those great old cartoons. And another thing that I owe to Cartoon Network for letting me know I would never have known they even existed if I hadn't have had Cartoon Network. So it was just cool. I mean, it's just it's one of those things that happened that was great, and then we never get much. Yeah, we get good things, and then they never end. The SWAT Cats, I think, ended on a big note. I think. Yeah, I don't want to give that away, but whatever. But yeah, anyway, yeah, SWAT Cats, good show. Definitely watch it. All right. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. Yep. And leave any comments you may want. I know you guys like SWAT Cats or whatever. And I apologize. I'm kind of all over the place, repeating myself. It's like I feel like I'm having a hard time ending the video for whatever reason. Anyway, yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you guys later then. Bye.